Hello everybody and welcome to Flock Talk. We have to be pretty quiet today as I am here with our newest addition, Toto. Toto is a Quaker parrot and we don't know all too much about him. We're at least his third home and I'm guessing he's probably close to 5 years old, but I really don't know. We've had him for 1 week now, so I'm going to share with you guys exactly what the first week with a new rescue bird looks like for us. I do want to apologize in advance since Toto is a nervous bird. I did not want to bring lighting and a tripod into his room and terrify him just for the sake of making content. So many of these clips are kind of weirdly angled or were recorded with my phone, so they just will not be the best quality. And as a quick additional note here, not every bird's first week will look the same. If your bird came from a breeder or had a really good home, odds are you'll be doing a lot more handling and interaction pretty quickly. Other birds may need more time. The most important thing is to just read their body language and move at the bird's pace. Alright, day one. First thing we gotta do is bring him home. There is a towel over his carrier, not only to keep him warm, but also to give him some more safety. This way there's only visible movement happening in the front of the carrier and he can easily move to closed off walls in order to feel safer and get away from the visible traffic outside. Throughout the drive we have the radio playing to help dull out loud, sudden, startling sounds of traffic, and we're also talking calmly to Toto throughout the drive, keeping our tones very, very light and soft. Silence can be scary for birds since that usually means a predator is nearby, so talking allows us to set the tone for the drive and give him the opportunity to begin evaluating us. If he vocalizes, we will softly speak to him and try to match his energy or bring some level of calmness to the situation. Once we get him home, we will set him up in his space. Since I have a spare room to work with, I'm just letting him free in the room. Most of the time you'll want to open the carrier door pressed against the cage door so the bird can easily transfer from the carrier to the cage without needing to be harassed to get them inside. In this case, he's going to be safe in this entire room, so I can just open the door and let him do what he wants. Toto is mostly flighted with only 3 primaries missing on 1 wing and a couple broken wingtips, so he can traverse the area very easily. From here, I'm just going to sit on the floor and ignore him. At this point, I could also opt to completely leave, but since I don't know him, I don't want to open the door and potentially have him launch out of the room, so I'm going to find an area in the room where I can sit that isn't going to elicit any fear responses from Toto. When I'm in this room, I am watching my own posture all of the time. I want to make sure I am as non-threatening as possible. So while I'm in here, I make sure to avoid excessive eye contact, keep myself pretty small, angle my body to the side so I'm not facing him straight on, and I try to keep myself low. Birds feel safest when they're up high, so I want to make sure that he has high places to retreat to and that I'm not towering over him. At this point, there's a lot of new things here for Toto to process and make choices about. He was in a very small cage just a few hours ago potentially for years. His mobility is a little wobbly and his flight muscles aren't that strong. Suddenly, he now has all this space to work with, and that can be very overwhelming and potentially scary if he's not confident in himself. This is a new home, new people, a weird, long, scary car ride. It's a lot for him to take in at once. So as much as I want to interact with him, I need to leave him alone and let him settle in. This is a good opportunity, however, for me to learn about Toto. By watching him interact with his environment and seeing how he processes stress, I can see what kind of bird he is. I can learn a lot by seeing how he tackles things that scare him. Does he freeze up and have a short startle response that he's able to kind of think through and explore? Are there visible health problems, muscle weakness, limping, uneven wings, or weird posture? Are there things he's struggling with? Climbing, certain perches or toys, flying, locating the food and water. All of that information is going to help me decide what my next steps will be. Right out the gate, I see that his nails are too long. He's not super sure-footed, but he's got a good recovery time from being startled, chooses to fly away when scared too much, confident enough to explore. He's heavily panting after flying, but he's easily able to locate the food and water. So I know I don't need to worry about adding more food and water spots, but I do need to be cautious when working on step-ups since his long nails, wobbly walking, and easy exhaustion may cause him to feel more hesitant to step up, and any training sessions will need to be shorter to keep him from exhausting himself. That confidence to explore shows me that he's pretty good at handling stress, and bouncing back from being startled tells me that if I make a mistake in training and scare him, that it may not send us too far back in progress. Him flying away when getting scared also tells me that he doesn't want conflict by default. Sometimes with rescue birds, you'll find that their body language has been ignored for so long that they'll start defaulting to aggression because it's the only thing that's worked to get people to leave them alone. That flight response still existing lets me know that he still has that response in there, and we can create an environment where flight will become his default response over biting and lunging. I'm also taking a peek whenever he eats to see if he shows any food preferences, so I know what treats to use for training. He picks the sunflower seeds out first, so that will be my high value reward. Then he goes for the safflower and oats, which will be my mediocre rewards. Toto is on a seed-based diet, and as much as I want to get him onto healthier foods as fast as possible, the priority on day one is stress management. I'm not going to change his food today when so many other things in his life have already changed so suddenly. Day two, I will need to change the food and water bowls and begin a more thorough behavioral evaluation to come up with a game plan. So first I sit on the floor and gradually move myself closer. So long as Toto appears calm and curious, I will keep moving forwards. If I see any fear, I will stop where I am and wait for him to relax and then move myself away again. This is what's known as negative reinforcement. I can't hand Toto treats, and as a big scary person, I don't have anything to really offer him that he wants, but I can reward him by removing the things he doesn't want, which is me. By teetering on the edge of his comfort zone and then going away as soon as I see comfortable body language, I'm giving him what he wants, me to leave. Over time, he learns that being calm makes me leave, and that fear response will be less and less prominent with each repetition. At this point, he will also be acknowledging that I am listening to his subtle body language. As soon as I see fear, I stop moving, and he will notice that. That's going to start encouraging more use of body language to communicate and less need for more severe actions like biting and lunging. I'm listening, and he knows it. The next step I'd like to work on is taking treats. It makes everything so much easier if he can take them and will help me be able to move him so I can do cage maintenance. He's seeming pretty comfortable with me sitting close to the cage, so we will give it a try. Now, I'm not going to invade his personal space and shove a treat in his face. One, that's really, really rude, and two, Quakers can be prone to cage guarding. Instead, I'm going to take a big lump of millet and hold it somewhere below him so he can see it and access it if he wants to. Millet was chosen just so I can keep my fingers further away from the treat and not get nipped. Immediately you can see his body language shift. There's a big head puff when my hand approaches and some hissing. That's a pretty obvious cue for me to stop, so I pause where I am and I wait. If he shifts to curiosity, I would stay longer. If he keeps asking me to leave, then I will take my hand away. Every time I leave when he's asked me to, he's learning that his boundaries won't be pushed and that I can be trusted. Fear isn't an emotion that can be reinforced, so me leaving when he's fearful isn't going to make more fear responses happen. It's just going to show him that I'm listening and encourage him to utilize body language to communicate. I could opt to continue to use negative reinforcement here for more calm body language, and if he were to present persistent fear, I could totally do that. But I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to switch to positive reinforcement pretty quickly here, so I'm opting to do that transition. Each time I offer a treat, I try to correct my mistakes from the previous repetition. If he told me to leave last time, then I will place my hand further away from the last repetition where it won't trigger a fear response, hoping that he'll decide to come take some, but if he doesn't, we're still forming trust based on the respected boundaries and that little bit of negative reinforcement being used. We do get pretty stuck here. Taking treats from me is too big of a step, so what I start doing instead is just plopping seeds on a nearby perch and walking away. This relieves some of that pressure from him where he doesn't have to interact with me directly, but he can still see that every time I show up, I have something good to offer. Over time, we can start to see that connection really click, and his body language changes to now being curious whenever I start to approach. Now we're making some good connections, so I'll try from the hand again with high-value sunflower seeds and potentially sacrifice my fingertips. There's some hesitancy to take them, but he is taking them. On day 2, we've also started desensitizing him to some body movements, having me shift my weight, take some steps, and generally just calmly move around at distances that aren't eliciting fear so he can process our movements and not get scared when we're working in closer proximity. We will keep at this through into day 3, where we are now able to have the hands move much closer to him and have him move distances to get the treats, which will allow me to move him and change the food and water much easier. I should say for all of these steps, my wife is here as well. These first few weeks are critical to forming bonds with a bird. If you aren't seen as valuable, then they're generally just not going to want to interact with you, and that's where a lot of one-person aggression can start from. Being a part of the daily routine, feeding, cleaning, and training shows the bird that you're a part of this flock and you have as much value as anyone else in the home. Day 3, I'm seeing a lot of curiosity from Toto. He's not freezing and standing tall when I enter the room in the morning, and I'm getting a lot of happy bird vocalizations. He's seeming pretty confident and mostly comfortable, so now I will mix a few different pellets into his seeds. This is unlikely to cause a bird to eat pellets, but it is a nice way to have them see the food for the first time and maybe peck at them a bit to explore them. Today I'm also bringing in a plate of vegetables, which I have softly microwaved so they're warm. And make sure to get a spoonful with ample sweet potato, since that's the first food almost all of my birds have been willing to eat. And he does eat it. He picks and chooses a few bites, which is a phenomenal start. He's confidently taking treats, so we're going to start working on Step Up, which right out the gate we see is a big aversive spot for him. Seeing hands without treats causes biting, lunging, swaying, fluffing up, and hissing. The first thing I do is simplify the process. I conceal my hands in a sleeve and just work on the separate elements of a Step Up. Comfort with the arm moving towards him, placing a foot on the arm, and stepping onto the arm. By how quickly he responds, it's pretty clear that the aversion is just towards hands, and I need to counter-condition that response, so instead of thinking a hand is going to surpass his boundaries and need a bite, I can have him know that a hand means good things are coming, and I'm listening. I start this process by having my step-up hand a distance away and just offering him treats for seeing it. I will also reinforce any alternative response to biting and lunging. So if he walks away or he just looks at it and kind of fluffs, I will reinforce that by either removing the hand or giving him a treat if he's willing to take it at that time. I want to reinforce anything that is going to cause him to understand that he does not need to bite me in order to communicate. From there, I will start offering him treats for walking back and forth past the hand. You'll see him side-eye my hand and feel the need to keep a close eye on it to feel safe. I'll be waiting at this stage until he can confidently strut past my hand without having those doubts. From there, I'll hold the step-up hand closer to the treats until my fingers can be touching the food bowl, and he's just reaching his neck over the tips of them to access food, working up to more stretching, where I was hoping he may plop a foot on, but we can see his distrust of the hand goes so far that he would rather stretch uncomfortably past it to step onto the bowl instead, and I need to modify my strategy. These training sessions are only going on for about 10 minutes twice a day, so all the time in between is spent just sitting on the floor, talking to him, and giving him alone time. Today we get some amazing curiosity where he decides to join me on the floor and even crawl up on me to investigate. I also offer him a bathtub. Toto had so much dust and debris on him that he looked like he was smoking whenever he moved in the right light. His first bathwater came out gray, and the second one had chunks in it. If I hadn't been watching the whole thing, I would have thought he ate food over the tub, so I'm super glad he decided to bathe. On day 4, I make some changes to our training plan, and I present the step-up hand first, followed by the treats. What this is going to do is set up the situation so the step-up hand is a cue for the food coming, and we will begin to see him excitedly start running towards the step-up hand before the food has even been presented. We're also not moving the hand towards him at all, so it's easier for him to say no simply by not approaching. Now we're reshaping his emotional response to that hand properly. I repeat a similar step to yesterday by gradually presenting the food closer to the hand and then behind the hand to encourage some stretching, but always after he has approached the step-up hand first. Now we have a good positive emotional response to the step-up hand gesture. We're always making sure we end the session on a good positive note so he's not feeling stressed or tired at the end of a session, and back to the floor for the rest of the hour to just hang out with Toto. I notice him doing a lot of preening, so I choose to spend time a little bit closer to him and see what he does. He showed so much calm and gentle curiosity, he ended up opting to preen my hair and gently nibble my face, which was an excellent opportunity for him to gather more information about me and build trust. I love doing little things like this because we're constantly asking the bird to do things that scare them and put so much trust in a massive, scary predator that every now and then it really pays off to just make yourself as vulnerable to them and offer them just a little bit of your own trust. It doesn't work for every bird, and please don't do it if there's a serious chance of getting bit, but for birds like Toto, it can make a big difference to the bonding process. Day 5, I intro step up onto a bare arm. He's comfortable doing it on a sweatered arm, so this will act as a nice transitional step to the hand. He gets lured on in gradual steps depending on his comfort, ranging from stretching to 1 foot and eventually 2 feet before I phase out the lure, so the presentation of the arm cues the step up. I use this to demonstrate the main behavior. I want 2 feet on the object in front of you, and it desensitizes him to gradually being on bare skin, which will help remove some fear from the hand. We also work a bit on having the hand approach him. Since he gets tired easily, I want to avoid him needing to take extra steps to reach the hand, if possible. He transitions to this skill really well. We spent the whole day just getting leans and 1 foot on the hand, which is perfect. This is where his comfort level lies, that's where we'll stay. The rest of the day, I'm just sitting on the floor trying to match his energy, talking to him in whatever tones he's chirping, working more on eating vegetables and pellets. Day 6, we're still going strong with the veggies. We're beginning to eat more and more of them. The whole dish got cleared out. And I'm offering some of the medium Kitech pellets, which he was originally very offended by, but he ended up deciding to eat them today. I don't know what it is with these pellets, but birds seem to love them with very minimal effort. Today we're seeing some excellent excitement for us coming into the room, vocalizing and even flying over to the training perch to get the session started. We're continuing with Step Up with the same process, and I begin to get 2 feet. The key thing I'm keeping in mind here is my position. If I move away from the perch when 2 feet are on me, that could really damage our trust. Staying close to the perch gives him an easy, reliable escape route, and any movement could cause him to feel unsafe. He's trusting me to stay still. Each rep we're offering our hand and allowing him to decide. If he stays still or walks away, then we just take the hand away. He doesn't have to participate if he doesn't want to. With each repetition, I'm observing his body language and ensuring I'm not pushing him too far. Learning is not a linear process, so while he may be comfortable putting both feet on for 1 rep, he may not be comfortable putting any on in the next rep. I need to meet him where he is for every single repetition. This means immediately rewarding him for his efforts, even if it's less than what was offered last time, and adjusting my expectations to match him. While I want to hold off on reinforcing until I get closer to the end goal, if I move things too quickly, it can become intimidating for Toto. I will be asking for too much, and that will set us back or get me bit. You can see the hesitancy in his body language on the few repetitions where I held off reinforcing and wanted more from him. And in this instance where my wife moved her hand away from the perch in 1 rep, she was immediately bitten on the next one. Every single repetition is important, and it influences subsequent repetitions. On day 7, we see so much excitement upon entering the room. He's flying right over for vegetables and chattering away. He flies straight to the training perch to get going. He is settling into the routine and is more eager to see us. The step-up concept is virtually understood at this point. We're really just going to be focusing on establishing a strong reinforcement history and having him understand that this hand isn't going to force him at any point. It's going to take more time for him to fully believe that I won't suddenly cram my hand into his chest or grab him, but we have some solid foundations to start from now. I love how, when I approach the stand now, he is almost immediately stretching forwards for the hand and lifting up his foot before I'm even ready. You can see the excitement to participate and an understanding of the desired behavior. I will likely be at this stage for the next few weeks while our trust develops more, where we will work on stepping up in different locations as well as adding movement, so he can be carried from one place to the next without any fear. Until then, we keep offering pellets and veggies and taking notes of what he eats and doesn't. So far, the whole chop mix has been a hit, even served at room temperature today. Pellets are going to take some time, but he's been consistently chewing up the medium Kitech pellets, so we're on the right track and I'm not going to make any major changes. As our trust builds, I'll start doing some more fun things with it, like making bird bread or soaking the pellets and things like that. For right now, because he's willing to try them as is, I'm just going to leave it. Day 8, I have opted to allow Toto to explore the rest of the top floor. Instead of pulling him from his safe space and just tossing him out there, I'm simply opening the door and leaving. And then I'll kind of bounce between sitting in the doorway and talking to him to just leaving him be to process the environment. He likely would have chosen to stay in here for the entire session if it weren't for Newt contact calling him from the basement. Toto ended up flying around trying to find him. I do want to note one big mistake I made here. I should have closed the curtains on that door. Thankfully, Toto already has a pre-established understanding of windows as a barrier, but they were a very big hazard I forgot to consider, and even understanding windows in his old home doesn't always mean he'll process the windows here in a brand new location. I've lived with flighted birds who know windows for so long that it didn't even strike me as a hazard to take care of before this moment, and that's my bad. The majority of Toto's first outing, he spent up on the kitchen cabinets pretty terrified and just trying to get his bearings. I don't interact with him much, aside from calmly talking to him and ensuring that I am sitting in the same room to keep an eye so he doesn't get into trouble. We have a second outing during his evening bird time, and you can see a major shift in his body language. He only spends about 10 minutes contacting Newt before deciding to fly into the front room with us on gradually lower perching spots. The fish tank, the TV, he's demonstrating a lot more confidence in the space by choosing to go just those little bits lower. I will ask for as few step-ups as possible while he's out, since he will be landing in spaces that he feels safe and I don't want Step Up to be continuously paired with being moved out of safety. Since we have established solid foundations for Step Up at this point, he very willingly steps off of the high spaces when we need, and is very easily transported to his room at the end of the session with lots of treats waiting for him in there. Day 9 goes even better than the day before. He settles in so quickly and even decides to go so low that he joins us on the couch after some time up high. You can see some soft fluffing in his body feathers. They're no longer pinned against his body in fear. His head is softly puffed, and even his cheeks are inflating a small bit. This is some phenomenally calm and comfortable body language that we're starting to see today. He even goes so far as to crawl on us to explore a bit more, lean to ask to be carried to new places, and at the very end of the day, he offered us some social preening behaviors. While the main focus of this video is the training, I want to emphasize that the training sessions are 20 minutes out of a whole day, 2 separate 10-minute sessions. The bulk of the time spent with Toto in the first week is just sitting in the room with him, talking to him, and allowing him to explore at his own pace. It's not particularly exciting content to watch, but it is a very important part of bonding with a new bird. They need time to decide how they feel about you, and the best way to do that is to let them observe you and interact in hands-off ways that allow them to form positive connections without needing to overcome fears to do so. Talking to your bird does a lot. Matching their tones and energy helps them connect to you, and although it can seem boring when all you want to do is hold them, those baby steps will make the whole process go a lot faster and set you up to have a strong, trusting relationship for a very long time. So that is going to do it for Toto's first week and a bit in his new home. As I did say at the beginning, every bird will be different, and how fast they progress will depend on your training skills as well as your bird's history and just how they handle stress. Just try to remember that this process is not about going quickly. Birds have very, very long lifespans. You are not in a rush. Take things slow, meet them where they're at. You don't need to rush them in order to form trust. It's not going to help you. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video has been helpful for you guys, and if you have any further questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I will be answering them as best as I can. Bye!